All right, for the last biome that we're going to look at, it is going to be the taiga. So we've got temperate deciduous forest, the tropical rainforest, and the taiga. All three of these, the main vegetation, you should figure this out by now, is trees or are trees. So the taiga, and if you'll notice, look at the kinds of trees. Back to here, these trees have leaves that have really broad, broad leaves on them. Think like oak trees or sweet gum or mango or stuff like that. For the taiga, very different. So notice they are conifers, and a conifer means that it is cone bearing. Let me skip forward. Cone bearing. So if you didn't know this, the female cone on a pine tree or a conifer is what we think of when we think of a pine cone. The male cone is the thing that about springtime is all yellow and is sending pollen everywhere. Now remember, this is the male cone. It spreads the pollen or the tree sperm to the other females, and when it pollinates, and the female cone doesn't look like this at first, but when it pollinates the pine trees around it, then this pine cone, this female cone, can start growing. And under each one of these little paddles of a pine cone is a seed. And this is the seed. This is the I think the only point of this little thing is the mode of transportation. The seed stays in the middle, and this little feather flaps around, and it looks like a helicopter flying around. If you have a trampoline, I remember we'd jump on the trampoline in the middle of the trampoline, and then get them all into the middle, and then grab them and jump as high as we could, and throw them up, and it was like slow confetti because they're all helicoptering down. I know this weekend I found some under my barn, about 15 feet under my barn, in a jar of water. So the cone, the seeds don't fall straight down. This helps them go away, because if they fell straight down, they would be in competition with the mother tree, because they can go away. If the wind's blowing really hard, which it would to get it out of this cone, then it can go 30, 40, 50, 100 feet away. So it's near the mother tree, but it's not competing with the mother tree. And that's how pine trees can start on the edge of the field and start taking over the field 20, 30 feet at a time, because the seeds can move out. So that's a cone. That's called a conifer, a cone-bearing tree. So if you don't have that down, you can write that down. Conifers are trees that produce seeds in cones, and they also have needle-like leaves. So we would call this a pine tree. But the trees that you use for Christmas, a Christmas tree, a cedar tree, cypress, those are all conifers. They have needle leaves and cone fruit. That's their fruit, is a cone. So the taiga, some of the qualities of a taiga. If you want to pause throughout any of this, then you can. But this biome has long, cold winters, very long, cold winters. They have evergreen trees. These trees stay green throughout the year, and they have a special adaptation that allows them to do that. They have special qualities that allow them to do that. If you've ever read Hatchet by Gary Paulson, I think it's Brian's Winter is one of the sequels, as if Brian didn't get saved in the first book. There's a spot where he's hearing explosions, and it's freaking him out. It's because it gets so cold that, kind of like a soda bottle, Coke bottle in the freezer, will explode once it freezes. Trees in the taiga, it gets so cold here that the trees can explode if for different reasons. We'll just say if it gets too cold, the sap can make the tree explode. And so hardwood trees like oak trees and sweet gums and maples and stuff like that, trees like that, they can't deal with the cold as well as trees with needles. So if you ever see a pine tree with brown needles all over it, covering it, something is wrong. Either it's dying, or maybe in this area, if somebody burns the pine trees, like burns the grass under it, sometimes the needles will die and they'll turn that. But normally you see evergreens, pine trees with green leaves, green needles all year round. Animals in this biome often hibernate. I wonder why. They often migrate. I wonder why. It's because it's so daggum cold. If they don't do those things, they will freeze. They'll spend too much energy heating their body up, maintaining homeostasis, and they can't replace that energy because they can't find anything to eat. A lot of animals, especially larger animals, are going to be hibernating Or things like you got like a lot of Canadian geese, they will migrate. They'll migrate. And this is the largest biome. If we look at a map, This is a huge, massive biome. Look at most of Russia, most of Canada. It's covered in this biome. And it's also known as, AKA, Coniferous Forest. And look, now you know what coniferous means. Coniferous means it's got cone-bearing trees. Trees with cones. And boreal forest, like I said, we're probably not going to call it that. Taiga or coniferous forest. You need to know what the word conifer means. Again, another picture. Bunch of pine trees, a bunch of conifer trees, rather. They live here because their sap allows them to not just explode like other trees will. And look at the temperatures, the rainfall as well. This has a lot less rainfall than where we live. And it's also a lot colder. And taigas are only found in the northern hemisphere. That's a superlative. I'm going to write down for the superlative. It's only found in the northern hemisphere, and it's the largest biome. And again, you might see similar animals. This is North American animals. So you have a moose, you have caribou, you'd have wolves, you have large birds of prey like an eagle, and again, the main type of vegetation are going to be conifers. There's other things. There's bushes and shrubs and stuff. A lot of those are conifers as well. But the trees are going to be the main form of vegetation. This is a harsh environment, a very harsh environment. A lot of things can't eat things from pine trees. Now, they can eat the seeds. They can't really eat the leaves. Most things will not eat the leaves of a pine tree. Some things will, but most things are not. Again, you can see the conifer. Here's another biome map. The coniferous forest, what's it called here? The taiga. This dark red, and you see that it's not down in the southern hemisphere or even near the equator because it's so cold, and it's only found in the northern hemisphere. There's only one biome that's found more north than the taiga, and we'll get to that. You'll notice it's the tundra. So real quick review. Really long cold winters. That means that there's only certain types of trees that can grow their cone-bearing plants. Animals in this area, in this biome, have to hibernate during the winter because it's so cold. And this is the largest biome, also known as the coniferous forest. It's only found in the north.